Hi everyone, right, what do you think about the old martial arts man myth? I want to hear your comments below, but YouTube says you've got to like the video for it to do well. So guys, please like the video and let's go into it. And I really want to read your comments below. My name's Anthony Cummins and I'm the author of Zen and the Samurai Sword. If you want more information on that, it will be below. But here you go, let's go. I would love to hear your opinion on which do you think is the first film or story or anything where it is the idea of a young champion who's taken under the wing of an older Oriental guy and is then taught the ways. Now you've got American Ninja, that's one, with the Frank Dux story. You've got obviously the Karate Kid, but you've all that type of idea. There's always the idea of an experienced yet slightly flawed Oriental man who's old and he looks after a young lad. Of course, it's never sexual, or it wasn't back then. There's no sort of hint at that. It's innocent times. And the idea is that the old man and the young boy make friends, and the old man, like a grandfather, teaches him the wisdom of the past. But beyond that, he also teaches him secrets of the martial arts. He's usually Japanese, but of course now also Chinese. Let's think of the Karate Kid remake. Now, when you go to Chinese cinema, this is slightly different. Chinese cinema tends to be more of a warrior already on his quest who needs to improve his quest, and then become a better kung fu expert. So please correct me if I'm wrong on this, guys. This is just from my knowledge of Chinese and American cinema. And basically in Chinese cinema, it tends to be there's a warrior who studied kung fu for many years, but since a child, but in their 20s, so they've been studying for 10, 15 years. They need to break through to the next sort of level of kung fu, and they do that through a wise old man with a white mustache, etc. So we could say this idea of the older, the story of the older man teaching the younger person goes back to the 1960s, 70s Chinese cinema. What do you guys think? Is this a trait, of course, or this trait is there with things like Star Wars, of course. You got the young Luke Skywalker, he goes to Obi-Wan. But this, of course, goes back. The story itself can be found in history. You've got King Arthur is taken under the wing of Merlin, and that's how he becomes wise. So we do have this idea of a story, but I'm talking more about the Oriental karate martial arts version. This, of course, replicates the grandfather-grandson relationship. So grandfathers and grandsons tend to have a very strong relationship. And the reason for that is dads are normally at work. Dads go to work. Grandfathers are retired. Grandfathers were men, they were once the father and they did all the work, but they're experienced. So they take their turn in looking after the young boys. So they go out and do their, both of my grandfathers looked after me very well and taught me many things. And I spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours with my grandfathers. So what we've got here is the idea that this Oriental man is going to teach the young man martial arts and that he's amazing at fighting. But this is the problem. It's a little bit of a fantasy. If you go back to actual medieval times, and to be honest, apart from a very few things, please give me some examples if you can, most of the time, people do their best work, their best thing when they're young. They do their best. So, for example, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, all their songs are all the best within a 5 or 6 year period when they're all in their teens and 20s. And then they live off that for the rest of their life, trying to recapture that idea. And seldom do they get, great stuff. Possibly artists are maybe different to that. Maybe not. What do you think? Artists tend to get better with time. Unless, of course, like Frank Frazetta, there was an injury or a stroke and then he ended up getting worse. But on the whole, or, for example, like Picasso, they tend to go arty crazy. And it's just like, yes, I couldn't draw, but I'm so bored of it, so I need to break the rules, and it's all higgledy-piggledy crap. And I'm going to be honest with you, I hate Picasso, and I hate Impressionism, and all of that sort of stuff. No, if you can't draw properly, don't do it at all, is what I would say if you're going to be a professional. But this is the same for samurai. So we get the samurai, and everybody has this idea, especially what annoys me, is we depict Tokugawa Ieyasu as a really old, wise general. Why? Hattori Hanzo is normally old and, he's the devil Hanzo, etc. But why? Some of the things these guys did were when they were young. We always have this idea of the older pictures because most of the time, warriors who survived to that age to become famous had their portraits done when they were old, and they're then sort of shown in films as being old. But no, they're absolutely quite young guys. And what about Yoshitsune? Minamoto Yoshitsune, yeah? One of the most famous people that people wanted to fight for and travel with and be on his side because he had great tactics and he was out there. He was about 17 years old, 19 years old. And he comes down behind his famous thing is to come down behind the castle, down steep rocks, carrying horses. The men carried the horses between them and to sort of get over the pass, and they're shifting down on ladders. And he was one of the best fighters there's ever been. What about Miyamoto Musashi? He's 30 years old, and he said that was he retired fighting at 30. So from the age of 13 or 12, realistically, depending on how they fight, they actually, he's doing his best fights in his teenage years. He's probably 18, 19. But no matter what happens, Miyamoto Musashi is always portrayed as an older man. He said himself he gave up fighting. He didn't. He ended up giving up swords. Then he ended up fighting and retired from it. Probably because he's too old. The simple fact is professional boxers too old when they get over a certain age. Professional football players too old. Once you're past that 25, 30 mark, your experience is there, but you let the other people. So I always found this weird that the oldest person in a dojo is sort of like the senior person. They might be the senior in knowledge and experience and just worldly experience because when you're young, but actually in fighting, guys, it's the younger guys who've got that stamina and can go for it. So why do you think we have this idea? And one of the main reasons for this video, guys, is I just wanted to point this out, that while the fantasy of the sort of like old, wise, oriental guy is a lovely dream, the actual truth is samurai would be finding the younger, harder fighting men, the generals who were out there on the battlefield. Think of Alexander the Great. He was dead by 33 after he'd conquered the known world. He wasn't some old, wizened man that took the experience. It was the young, genius of generation that went out there. So, as I say, my name's Anthony Cummins. Please like this video. And I hate saying things like that, but it means the algorithm picks up the video and does it. So I want to do an experiment. Please like it. So let me know what you think. Get yourself a copy of Zen and the Samurai Sword. The link is in the pinned comment on this video. So it would be really, really good, guys, if you could get a copy of that. And it will be out on Audible in the end. So let's say thank you to Mr. Miyagi there, who I grew up with as my dream Oriental guy. And I'm looking forward to seeing your comments below.